Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to talk about admissions and the recruiting process for admissions. My guest today is Julie Washington. She's the Assistant Director of Admissions for Caldwell University, and Rosemary Raposa. She is the counselor at Caldwell University as well. And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, where I usually start my guests is, where did you go to college? So, where did you go?
Sure. I graduated from St. Mary of the Woods College. It's actually just outside of Terre Haute, Indiana.
Okay. And yourself?
I graduated from Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So, what ended up getting you involved in admissions?
So I moved to New Jersey about 5 years ago and saw a position that was posted at Caldwell, which was then Caldwell College, is now transitioned to Caldwell University. But I applied for the position. It was actually a travel recruiter position. And that led to then me just staying on now for 4 years at Caldwell. And now I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions. It's been a great experience so far.
Wow. And yourself, Rosemary?
I think I'm kind of unique in that I didn't really fall into college admissions. So my whole family is kind of involved in higher education. My dad is a professor and my mother is a career counselor. So when I was a senior at Lehigh, I started applying to admissions jobs. I started at College of St. Elizabeth, which is a small women's college in Morristown, New Jersey,
Sure.
and then saw the position at Caldwell. Actually knew one of our other colleagues, Marissa, from traveling and met her, and that's how I kind of started at Caldwell.
Great. All right. So, you guys have been there for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the process of admissions at Caldwell University? When do parents start thinking about the admissions process?
So on the parent side, we've seen students come in even at the sophomore year. Definitely by junior year, students have an idea of where they're kind of interested in applying and start visiting the schools. But as far as applying to the school, of course students don't apply until their senior year, usually in early fall apply. But definitely prior to that, we have a lot of students that come up for our junior open house that we have in the spring, and then we get a lot of turnout for that. And then definitely senior years, a lot of activity of students visiting campus and things like that. But I just encourage students to visit, early on, even if you're traveling on a family vacation, even if your students as freshman, sophomore in high school,
Right.
to go ahead and stop by the campus. If you're, traveling up the coast to want to visit some schools, to do that. That way you can get the students exposed to the university and just kind of get an idea, so that students can kind of start narrowing down whether they want a large university or a smaller institution.
So, what's the atmosphere at Caldwell University? How big is the school? What's the population? That kind of stuff.
We are 1,200 students undergrad, so we're definitely a small school, a community. We are a liberal arts school and also a Catholic school. So I think the ethos, the culture of Caldwell is definitely a community vibe. Definitely get to know a lot of the students. Even working in admissions, we get to know a lot of the students.
Great.
So yeah.
A lot of extracurricular activities at the school as well?
Absolutely. We have a lot of different clubs and organizations to get involved with. We're Division II in athletics. So we have several different NCAA sports for students to get involved in. And we also have a really strong campus ministry. So if students want to get involved in volunteering, giving back, community service is huge at Caldwell. So we definitely encourage students to get involved, no matter what faith background you come from. You definitely don't have to be Catholic to attend Caldwell or to get involved in the volunteer opportunities. But those are a really important part of our university.
Gotcha. So now, the process, when they start I'm assuming sophomore year in high school is when the
Definitely
process
the
really
search
starts?
process for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So that sophomore year, is it where they're just looking at the school, checking it out? They really can't do anything more than that?
Right. Yeah, so I think sophomore year is mainly students kind of getting exposed to different campuses, trying to figure out what kind of school they want to go to, private or public, small or large. So that's probably sophomore year. I think it's junior year where you're really starting to get ready for the SATs or the ACT and narrowing down your list.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what, junior year is when they really start contacting the school?
Yeah, we definitely start seeing an uptick in the number of inquiries from students, juniors. When we go to college fairs, which we attend a lot of different college fairs, we see a significant interest coming from the junior class, and then also indicating that they'd like to come visit campus and things like that. We wouldn't turn a student away no matter what age they are if they want to come visit campus, but the juniors tend to be a little more narrowly focused and more interested in learning about the programs that we have. And if some students are very focused and know if they want to go on to, they're interested in med school or certain programs that we have, they're asking questions early on to tailor that down.
So what are some of the requirements that the school looks for students to come to that school?
I think since we're such a small school, we really have the ability to really look at every application, really look at all the different test scores they've taken. If somebody maybe had a hard sophomore year, for example, we can really look into that, read their essay, really look into all of their letters of recommendation. So I think that's a great thing about Caldwell is that we have that ability. Our average GPA at Caldwell is about a 3.4. So we kind of look for that range in terms of GPA.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so when a student applies, there's different components of what they have to submit. So of course the application is the first thing, and at Caldwell you can either do an online application from our website or you can do the Common App. And then we also look for the essay, and as Rosemary mentioned, we do actually read the essays. So some institutions don't have that ability to be able to actually take an application and thoroughly look
And that's
through
just
that.
because of the volume of applications that come in.
Exactly. So, we actually read, the essay. We also request 2 letters of recommendation. So that can come from a high school guidance counselor, school counselor, or a teacher. And then also SAT or ACT scores. We'll accept either. And for the SAT, currently, we just look at the math and critical reading score. And then that will be the same moving forward as they convert to the new SAT.
Right.
And the ACT, we look at the composite score. And then I think the major component is the high school transcript. So that's something that we look at thoroughly all 4 years of the high school transcript and really get an idea of the types of courses that their students are taking and how heavy of a course load it is, and whether they've progressively increased that course load and to move from maybe into honors and then into AP or something like that, because that's important too, to see their progression through high school.
Right. So it really comes down to the student and what they're taking in high school that gives them that ability to get into the college.
Yeah, overall, the greatest predictor that studies have seen is that the high school transcript is the greatest predictor of collegiate success. So, but of course, we're a little more holistic. We look at all the factors, as Rosemary said. And if there's a student that, maybe we have a question about something in their transcript, or maybe their SAT scores don't quite match up to their high school transcript, we might call them in for an interview. An interview isn't required, but we can do that. And on the flip side, a student can request an interview if they want to come up and sit down with us.
Really?
Throughout, the
absolutely.
application process.
Wow. So if a student wants to do something like that, do they do it online? Do they do it via the phone? How does something like that happen?
Most students will reach out either via email or calling the admissions counselor directly. So each of our admissions counselors in our office covers a certain territory in a certain area. So the student generally knows who is their admissions counselor, so they can contact that admissions counselor directly. Or alternatively, they could call our main admissions line or email our main admissions email to set that up.
And you said that you do a lot of recruiting, high school recruiting. What's involved in that? How do parents make sure that they're at those recruiting nights, I guess, or college nights?
So sometimes college fairs will be during the day at a high school where they kind of come out of class, or it's during their lunchtime. I really enjoy the ones that are at night because it gives parents the opportunities to join their kids and go around to the different tables.
Yeah.
We can give them information about the school. We hand out information in the form pamphlets, and always invite them to come back to campus to check it out as well.
Yeah, so it's really big for the parents to check out the school. Is that a main thing?
Yes. Do you mean the university or
Yeah.
the high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's highly encourage that if a student wants to set up a tour as a family, come up, do that as a family. It sparks conversations because a parent might find out something that they didn't know their student was interested in, or realize that the student is not interested in a large university, maybe wants a smaller atmosphere. A lot of things happen in those conversations, and we even see that at the college fairs.
Right.
When we're at a college fair at a high school in the evening and students and parents walk by, there's a lot of different conversations that happen, and they might find out that their student is interested in playing a Division I or Division II sport, or Division III, and maybe that conversation hasn't happened yet. So.
Gotcha. So now, a lot of parents out there always ask questions like, schools have quotas, wear white or wear black or wear Asian or whatever, and we can't get in because they've already filled that quota. Is that a true myth or not so much a myth?
At our institution, no, there's not a set quota, of any type of student. So I would say that that's false at Caldwell University. I can't speak for other institutions, but
Right.
and because again, we're looking at every applicant, as it comes forward, and so we're definitely looking at that. I know at some institutions they might have certain caps on certain programs more so. So if a student was applying for engineering or different things like that, at Caldwell, the one program that could potentially fill up would be nursing. So there are sometimes students that apply, and it's encouraged that they apply, early on, because there's only a limited number of seats per year that the nursing program can hold.
So that brings me to another question. There's early admissions, then there's regular admissions. What's the difference between all of these admission processes?
So we're rolling admission at Caldwell University. So we start reviewing applications around November, and then they can apply to May 1st. That's the national enrollment deadline for rolling institutions.
Okay.
For programs that do fill up, like nursing or more competitive programs, like maybe our 7-year medical programs, we always encourage them to apply usually by December. So get your application in. And that way you could reserve a seat for yourself in the nursing program if you meet the qualifications. Some schools have early decision, and if you apply early decision and you are accepted into early decision, then you are committed to that school. We do not have early decision, we have early action.
Okay.
So if they apply by a certain date, then that's wonderful, but they are not committed to Caldwell. If they still wanted to go to another institution, they could.
So that's the difference between the early decision and early action.
Right.
Yes, yeah, early action at Caldwell, if you apply by December 1st, you're guaranteed to have an answer from us on your admissions decision by December 31st. But it's not binding on the student, so they're not committed to come to Caldwell by doing that.
Very interesting. So now, the student, is there anything that tags the student a little higher than someone else? Like, is there any extracurricular activities that student can do to enhance their ability to get into a school?
I think just being a well-rounded student is very beneficial. When you apply, showing that, yes, you've done well academically, but also that you have had other interests. And the key is also having those interests long-term. So it's more beneficial to see a student that has maybe stayed in Scouts, all the way through, than maybe someone who's bounced around to a lot of different things every couple of weeks. They're in a different club, a different organization. Yeah. You want to see that they have a commitment to that, and that they're passionate about whatever it is that they're involved in. So absolutely, community service is important. And their clubs and extracurriculars is important when you apply. So.
Go ahead.
Also, at Caldwell, we have a recognition award, so it's definitely beneficial to be involved in a lot of different organizations, show that you've gotten involved in clubs and volunteering in high school, because you can apply for a recognition award, which is a scholarship, where you can earn up to $5,000 a year.
Wow. So the school has money, even though it's a Division II type school, there's monies at the school that people can apply for?
Yes, so when a student applies to Caldwell, they're actually automatically reviewed for our academic scholarships. So we're unique in the fact that we provide a chart to families that details each of our academic scholarships, as well as what the student could potentially qualify for based on different metrics. So based on different SAT scores or ACT scores or GPA. And we give you a range. And so that's really beneficial. So if you come to one of our college fairs, you
Yeah.
can get that information, and that's really helpful for the student. Even as a junior, they can already be looking, okay, if I have this SAT score, ACT score, I can know what range of scholarship I would qualify for. So they're automatically reviewed for that. When they get their acceptance letter, it details in the acceptance letter what academic scholarship they qualify for.
Okay.
And then as Rosemary was speaking, we also have the recognition award, which a student submits their resume of all of their leadership activities, extracurriculars, volunteer, and they submit that and then can be considered for an additional scholarship for the recognition award.
Wow.
In regard to athletics, that's at the coach's discretion. So there are some athletic scholarships that are also available, but that goes through the athletic department.
Okay. Now, how about fine arts? Is there like band or theater, that kind of stuff as well?
So we do have a music department. In our music department, there's also a music scholarship that's potentially available. So a student actually would come up and audition. Typically those happen early March or late February, and the student comes up, does an audition, either vocally or instrumental, and can be potentially qualified for a music scholarship. And in the same way, we have the art scholarship, which a student submits their art portfolio to be reviewed for a potential art scholarship. So a lot of different ways to help fund the education, and we do value those things. We don't have performing arts as a major, but we do have the music department and the art department.
Wow, that's great. So the process itself. So the applications come in. What happens? Is there a big pile that ends up happening at someone's desk? How does that process work?
So our applications come in electronically unless they actually do send in a paper application. And each counselor is responsible for their own territory. So whatever territory you're recruiting in, you're also going to review the applications for that territory as well, which is really neat because sometimes you actually get to meet a student on the road and kind of go through the whole process with them. Meet them at a college fair, see them on campus, have them apply, read their application, and then actually have them enroll. So that's really neat.
So, and then what happens? So you're reading all this, and then is there someone above you then checks off if they're good enough for the school, not good enough? How does that process continue to keep growing?
Yeah, so we do have, our Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Management who oversees our admissions and, would be kind of the final say if there was, some kind of decision that needed to be made. But we have a really wonderful relationship, and sometimes if there's a student that we really want to fight for, if there's a student that we really think is, could be an awesome Caldwell student and might not meet the exact criteria that we see in a typical student, there's an opportunity to have a discussion, and I think that's really beneficial that we have that opportunity. So that's why it's key that students come to meet their admissions counselor, take the opportunity to potentially do an interview if they're, want to bring up any concerns, because we can then go and try to help that student out. So.
Now, once the student is at the school, is that admissions counselor also their counselor throughout the 4 years that they're there, or is that someone else that handles that?
So we actually have academic advisors. So once a student is enrolled at Caldwell, they'll have an academic advisor that serves them throughout their 4 years. And they are, the academic advisor that would help within their major. So for instance, we have students that are interested in our health professions, and any student that's interested in physical therapy or health science, biology, then that wants to go on to any of the health professions would have an academic advisor who's the director of the health professions program. So that's just kind of give you an example of how that works.
So now, your process, how does the year work for you? Do you work all year round? Is this something that's just continual and it never stops?
Yeah, so since we're rolling admission, I think that we are definitely accepting applications for a large portion of the year. In the spring, I think we mainly focus on, again, going back out to college fairs and talking to juniors, educating them about Caldwell as juniors.
Up until June?
Yeah, up until June. I mean, even sometimes there will be events in the summer, too,
Really?
which families can come to as well.
And what type of events usually happen in the summer months?
So we don't have a ton of events that usually happen in the summer as far as recruitment, but there are different types of things that we have. Like we just had our conference that we have during NJCAC, and at that conference there was a college fair. So at that conference there's a lot of high school counselors that can come and get information to then take back for the following year for their students. And on our campus coming up in July, we're actually hosting Camp College for the first time.
Which is really exciting.
Which is a program to help, basically a mini admissions boot camp that's going to help mainly high school juniors that are rising seniors to learn how to apply to college, learn about financial aid, things like that. And then we'll host a mini college fair as well as do a panel of different admissions representatives to give more information for the students. So there's always activities. When you said that, do your jobs stop? It's absolutely year-round. It doesn't end. Because in the summer, we're also planning our fall schedule and which high schools we're visiting and when. Because in addition to college fairs and things like that, we also go to high schools and do what we call private visits, where we'll meet with the school counselor and interested students in a more intimate atmosphere where we can sit down and talk about their interests and kind of help them to provide information to the students.
So in the fall, is it usually you're going to these high schools to promote the college itself and get the college noticed? Because Caldwell University, maybe in the state of New Jersey, is well known. But outside the state of New Jersey, do you go outside Pennsylvania or Connecticut or New York or any places like that as well?
Yes, we do. We cover the tri-state area, and we've seen an increase in the number of students that apply, from out of state. So, whereas currently we aren't traveling as far as California or Florida, we are definitely traveling to Massachusetts, Long Island, Queens, the whole area, New York. And then come down to Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, and we definitely try to hit up. There's national college fairs that are in like Baltimore, D.C.
So that's how you get the school recognized from
Absolutely.
other high schools that are out there.
Absolutely. So, and that's important. But again, in today's day and age, a lot of it is online presence. So, we definitely have a significant online presence, even on the radio. A few commercials on the radio.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So big social media presence for sure. Twitter, Instagram, always keeping those super up to date with all the things that are going on campus.
Yeah, sure. So that means a lot to the kids because it gets into their head right there, right?
Absolutely.
Instantaneously.
Yeah.
So are you then working it all the way through the Christmas holiday as well, and right into the spring again? So is there something that goes on throughout the Christmas time frame?
Yes. So, even though our university takes a Christmas break, we do still have counselors that come into the office throughout the Christmas break because it's important. That's when students are receiving their decisions and they have questions. They want some follow-up, and we're still receiving applications at that point as well. Okay. So it's definitely important that we still maintain that communication with the students throughout the whole process. So we're definitely connected to our email and our phones so that we can maintain that and help them.
Now, you talked about financial aid. Is that a big concern for the parents that are out there to come to Caldwell University?
I mean, that's a big trend in higher education right now. People are concerned about getting financial aid, having scholarship opportunities. So our financial aid office is awesome in connecting with students and telling them about different opportunities. I know even on our website, besides financial aid, they have a whole list of outside sources you can apply to for scholarships too. So there's definitely got a lot of good opportunity for that.
So that's big.
Yes, and it is a concern for students and their parents to be able to, how can we afford private liberal arts Catholic, education, and how can we do this? But again, as I mentioned, we are very generous in our academic scholarships, so that's key. Over 90% of our students receive some form of financial aid, so that could be in the form of grants or loans. And then the key is just making sure that parents know the deadlines of when to apply for financial aid. So, making sure that they know that, after January 1st, you can apply for financial aid, and to get that process rolling. We provide a lot of opportunities if students need help and families need help with doing the FAFSA. We, at one of our events that we have on campus, there's actually an opportunity to sit down with a financial aid counselor one-on-one to talk through any concerns they may have, or to actually work through the FAFSA to bring all of their materials so they can have some help. It can be daunting the first time you go to apply for the FAFSA. And then again, you can always come. They have drop-in hours at our financial aid office, so parents can come up, meet with financial aid counselors, and get more information about that, which is important, especially if it's a family who's their first child going away to college. You want to make sure that you do everything and do it in the right order.
Good. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and usually what I ask my guests is, what advice do you want to give to the parents that are out there, that they have sons and daughters, they're planning on going to college? What advice do you want to give them?
My advice would be to begin that conversation, to take some time to sit and talk to the student about their interests and what they might want to see themselves doing. And then also not being afraid that if your student says, I don't know, I'm undecided, that's okay. And so you can definitely come into college as an undecided student and navigate that. Students going to be exposed to so many different opportunities and different classes that they may not have had in high school, and may find an interest that they didn't know, that they had. And then visiting the campuses, whatever institution that you might, be considering, take the time to get on campus, to take the tour, meet the students, interact with them. That's why the student's going to really find if that's the right fit for them. The key is to find the right fit where they can be happy and flourish and be successful. So, that's my advice.
Great.
I was going to say the same thing. Getting on campus is so important. Just getting a feel for the school, talking to students, talking to professors at open houses, I think is so useful. And also starting the process early. If you're near Caldwell, just drop in, check out the campus. I think the earlier you start, the easier it's going to be as a process.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.